exciting episode of Galea Kills Everything, your #1 rated daily Metropolis weather program where Galea kills everything. Tonight we are on assignment here in Apokoliptian Gotham, and holy shit is it hot outside. As you can see, there is a 30-story tall column made entirely of flame, and there is a burning man made of lava, literally the size of an apartment complex here. That is Brimstone. He is the big, burning, brawling bruiser from Apocalypse. We don't really know much about him beyond that, and to be frank, we don't need to. We're not interested in going on a date with this guy. We're interested in putting him down, preferentially before he turns the rest of the town into a big upside down. Yeah, that's right. We don't want him fucking around anymore, so we got to put him right through the floor. Let's talk about how to make that happen. First off, as you can see, Brimstone has a crap load of different ability attacks, and he likes to chain them together. There's really not a lot of things going on here that you can completely avoid. The biggest ones are going to be those rock attacks. The 360 boulders, if you can anticipate the zones, get out of the way of those. That'll make some magic happen for you. The other thing is that bowling boulder attack. You can kind of avoid that if you see it coming, though that is going to be subject to whether or not you are currently being afflicted by one of his 2 stuns. And then finally, there is the large zone AoE attack. That does have a telegraph, and the boulder drop, which he uses at a distance. That'll be telegraphed by that ring of fire first. He'll send the boulder up, and then like 90 of them will come down. It's very bad for your health. Now, all of these things are complicated by the fact that he has 2 different versions of what are essentially the same stun, a palm drop and a clap. You're going to want to use basic breakout for this. Just tap that block button to get your breakout and then dodge roll out of the way, because every time he does one of those attacks, he immediately follows it up with one of his AoE attacks or one of his targeted rock attacks. The other part of that conversation is it's not going to require manual breakouts. You're not going to sit there and mash on a button for an extended amount of time. You just need to do your basic breakout, get the hell out of the way. Now, mobility is key in this fight. If you're going to be doing this guy, I do not recommend that you bring in any sort of build that locks you into place. If you're doing channel moves, make sure they're mobile channeled. If you're doing a combo build, short execute, high yield combos, or supplement with some of your burst and some DOT, things like that. In this case, I'm using a mental character, which means she doesn't really have a lot of mobile channel moves, and she doesn't have any combo moves whatsoever. This build doesn't include Starbolt or Hope Wave, so from that standpoint, precision build is actually kind of good here, especially if you have a Clarion, because it will allow you the opportunity to maintain some constant incoming health while also providing you with a shield and a little bit of supplemental damage. That's awesome stuff. Clarion should be in everybody's survival kit. That's just a personal opinion, but it's a personal opinion backed up by a bunch of observation. I also favor Lernia's healing in this particular build, and you can see why every time it gets used, it does 200k a tick. You can use a finisher once and essentially put her all the way back up to max health. The problem with Lernia's healing is that it makes all of your other abilities do damage to you, so you do have to keep an eye on it and make sure that you're switching back and forth between your finisher and your regular moves at a regular interval. The reason for this is it doesn't matter how good the healing is on the finisher if you're dead before you get to the finisher. And as we all remember, one of the favorite lessons you learn first thing inside of the game, at least if you're paying attention to anything, is your DPS is 0 when you're dead. So, to recap, stay mobile. Second, this is not an entry-level fight. As you can see, tons of zone attacks, tons of single target attacks, tons of stuns. Brimstone is coming out and he's got all the guns. Now, usually I cover the basic fighting style of whoever it is that you're facing a lot earlier in the video than this. I didn't for a reason. We're going to unpack that reason right now. Brimstone is a brawler. You get close enough to him for him to hit you with melee attacks. You will notice he has the same brawl string that most other brawlers do. So, good, That does mean he's counterable. Unfortunately, if you're not using a tank, that also means that the counter opportunities are going to be very, very limited, because most of the time you're not going to want to get close to him due to the amount of damage that he does. And if you're not close to him, he uses non-stop ability attacks over and over and over and over again. The other part of that conversation is, if you are close to him, he'll still use his stuns. It's really, really, really hard for you to counter his Brawling fighting style if you're currently stunned. For that reason, I really don't recommend counter game in this fight. There are some fights where the counter game is absolutely important. This is not one of them. That's a good way to die, if I may be so bold. So, that all being said, this fight has recently been moved out of its earlier CR range and into the early endgame CR range. Now, for Brimstone's part, that means his CR isn't going to change a whole lot from what it is right now, but for your part, it does mean that your CR is going to be capped at about 471. Now, from a practical standpoint, Galea's at 477 right now, so anything you see her throwing out, if you've got a comparable move, anticipate that it's going to do similar, if slightly reduced damage. You're going to get comparable performance. You're going to get, 5-digit damage on all those basic attacks. You're going to get big heals. You're going to get dramatic numbers, which is good, but you'll also take dramatic numbers, which is not as good. This is going to be a mitigation heavy fight and a build heavy fight, but it is not going to be necessarily a DPS heavy fight. There's no timer on this one. The only things aside from Brimstone that show up are the 2 lava beams. They only show up intermittently. He does not summon them very often, and they are very easy to kill. I do recommend getting rid of them when they show up, simply from the standpoint that less things on the dance floor, less things to trip over, but it doesn't change the fact that, as you can see, he summoned them there, and they stood around with their thumbs up their asses for like 20 seconds before I came over to pick a fight with them. That's about what you can expect out of those ads. It's not like the ads that you get in the Vice fight, where it's like you have to kill them all right now or you're going to die, or the ads that you get in the calculator fight, where not only do you have to kill them all or you will die, but they all also independently have their own beam and stun attacks, which will make your life a living hell until they die. Brimstone's guys aren't like that. They're just made of lava. They're confused. They don't know why they're here, so if you bushwhack them, they'll be off the floor immediately. You won't have too much to worry about. All that said, this is not a very difficult fight. It's also not a very easy fight. Solid mid-card material here. Brimstone does have non-stop output, non-stop ability attacks, but he does have a lot of telegraphs, and there are a lot of opportunities. That being said, he's not Ultraman. You're going to need more than one wet sock and rolled up newspaper to take care of him. I'm sorry, Ultraman, but if it's true, it's true. You're a wuss. And that's pretty much it. Now, when we're talking about fights, we don't want to forget the other important thing, those delicious rewards. Now, Brimstone is a weekly bounty. He has the same general reward schedule that most other weeklies do, meaning that once a week you can fight him, you'll get that 8 marks, and you'll get a reward box. Brimstone also has a basic countdown feed associated with him. If you kill him X amount of times, you will get some sweet skill points back as well, which, hey, skill points, nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs some skill points. And as a final reminder, while we wrap up the last few seconds of the fight here, as you can see, he's getting down pretty low. This is early end game now, so when you come in here, anticipate that he's not going to crack out quite as much, but also anticipate that you're not going to see the numbers that you're used to in later game content right now, and adjust your expectations accordingly. You're not going to just walk in here with a DPS and stomp him out in the next 5 seconds. If you can, send me a link. I'll post your video on the forum in the FAQ. All right, folks, well, that wraps everything up. Thank you for watching. Good fight. Good night.